Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel, My Life in Stories. I'm so excited to finally share my stories with you. Through these personal stories, I hope to introduce you to a very different world, a different upbringing, a completely different life. I have many stories from my childhood and beyond, and today I want to begin with one of the most unforgettable ones. This is the story of the time I ran away from home and ended up spending a night among the homeless. I don't remember exactly how old I was, maybe in second or third grade, around 9 or 10 years old. I know that sounds shocking. For a child that young to even think of running away from home seems unthinkable, especially from the perspective of someone living in the US or anywhere else in the developed world. But to give you some context, I was given away by my birth parents when I was around 4 or 5 years old. A young single woman took me in and raised me as her own. I'm grateful to her for that. She wasn't a bad person. In fact, she was quite kind most of the time. But she was young herself and often lost her temper. If I didn't finish my homework or failed to do my chores properly, I would get scolded, sometimes even hit. I don't know what it was, but I was a troubled soul. I didn't feel like I belonged at home. There was this deep restlessness in me, this constant desire to escape, like a bird longing to be freed from its cage. So one day, when I must have been around 9 or 10, I decided I couldn't stay home any longer. I had this strange, deep feeling of loneliness, a kind of quiet desperation. That morning, I got dressed in my school uniform, packed my bag with books and lunch, and set out just like any other school day. But instead of heading to school, I turned away and started walking toward a place called Buddha, a well-known area in Kathmandu centered around a grand Buddhist stupa. I must have walked nearly 8 miles that day. Along the way, I rested when tired and ate the food in my lunchbox. I had no clear plan, just a strange, heavy feeling in my chest and a strong urge to get far away from home. By the time I reached Buddha, my lunch was gone. I had no money, just a little water left in my bottle. I remembered I had an aunt who worked at a carpet factory somewhere in that area. I hoped I might bump into her, but I didn't know where exactly she lived. And being so young, I had no way of finding her. So I just wandered around the stupa, watching the crowds. Buddha is always bustling. Tourists, fruit vendors, local devotees, shops and cafes, all kinds of people. But I was exhausted, and I was hungry again. I didn't know what to do. Then I spotted a fruit vendor. He was surrounded by customers checking fruits and asking questions. I quietly slipped into the crowd, pretending to be a buyer. When no one was watching, I untucked my shirt, slid a couple of mangoes underneath it, and slipped away, fast. My heart was pounding. I kept walking without looking back, terrified someone would grab me. Finally, when I felt safe, I found a quiet corner and sat down to eat the mangoes. They were sweet. I felt a little better, but still hungry and very tired. As evening fell, the crowd around the stupa thinned. Homeless people began settling into their spots on the pavement, spreading cardboard sheets to lie on. I slowly approached and sat next to them. They looked at me, confused. One of them asked, "Where are your parents?" I lied and said I had no parents, that I was homeless too. Maybe they didn't believe me. I was still in my school uniform, with a bag on my back. But they didn't ask further. They had their own problems. As the night deepened, I lay down on the cold pavement, surrounded by strangers trying to sleep. It was cold. I only had on a half-sleeved school shirt, no jacket, and I was still hungry. It was one of the hardest nights of my life. Suddenly, I felt a gentle tap on my back. I opened my eyes and saw a middle-aged Tibetan man standing above me. He asked where my parents were and why I was sleeping outside. Again, I lied. I told him I had no parents, that I was homeless. He looked skeptical. "Then why are you in a school uniform?" I told him it was a donation from someone kind. He didn't buy it. He told me I should come with him. I refused at first, saying I was fine where I was. Then he warned me, "If you don't come, I'll have to call the police, and they'll take you to jail." That scared me, so I got up and followed him. He lived nearby in a small flat near the stupa. When we arrived, he asked if I was hungry. Of course, I said yes. He had some thukpa, Tibetan noodle soup, and offered it to me. Normally, I didn't like thukpa, I still don't. But that night, it was the most delicious thing I'd ever tasted. He even had a TV and a VCR, which was a big deal back then. He put on the movie Muqaddar Ka Sikandar, a classic Hindi film, and I sat there on his couch watching and eating like I was in a dream. I want to say, thank you, whoever you were. I'll never forget your kindness. That night I slept on the sofa, warm, full, and safe. The next morning, when I woke up, the man was not in the room. I was still afraid he'd take me back home. So I quietly grabbed my bag and sneaked out of his house. As I tiptoed toward the exit, I saw the man working in his garden outside. I didn't say anything. I quietly slipped out of the house and started walking. I didn't know where to go, but I felt it wasn't safe to stay nearby in case he came looking for me. Eventually, after wandering for a bit, I decided it was time to go back home. I walked the same 8-mile route back, this time on an empty stomach. I didn't want to knock on the door myself. I was hoping someone would find me and take me home. After wandering the neighborhood for a while, a neighbor spotted me and brought me home. And that's how my little misadventure finally came to an end. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If this touched you in any way, please don't forget to like, share, and comment below. And if you'd like to hear more stories like this from my life, be sure to subscribe to My Life in Stories. I'll see you in the next one.